All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Bob Weathers, and we're here at your Vitality Project with our regular guest and esteemed expert, Angela McLeod.
Hi.
Wonderful to have you with us tonight, Angela. Thank you.
Thank
Our
you.
topic tonight, thank you for being here. Our topic tonight is timely because we're moving just past Thanksgiving weekend and we're moving into other holidays coming up, including Hanukkah and Christmas and New Year's. And our topic is finding ways to manage our stress. Technically, we call these self-regulation strategies to help us make it through the stressors that are kind of unique around the holidays. And so I can't think of anybody I'd rather have engaged in this conversation with me than you, Angela, because of your own keen interest and deep expertise in self-regulation techniques and nervous system, managing our nervous systems. And so I'd like to open it up for our conversation tonight and just see where we go. And I'll hand the baton to you to dive in first, if you'd like, if that's okay, Angela.
Sure. Yeah. I just put my earbuds in. I remembered that works better for this kind of a broadcast. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a nice introduction. Yeah, I think probably everybody can relate to, the kind of the combination of how holiday time, this time of year, Thanksgiving, however you celebrate, whether it's Christmas or other ways of celebrating, around the solstice, around Hanukkah, all of those things, and the New Year Eve time, that it can be a mixture of, a happy time, a time of celebration, a time of traditions that are meaningful to us with people we love and that we have history with. And it can be very stressful. And for a lot of us who deal with addiction or in recovery from addiction, or live with people who are dealing with addiction, it can be magnified tremendously around this time of year. And so looking at ways that we can kind of proactively reduce some of the stress around that can help us to reduce the risk of relapse or overusing whatever addictions we might still be currently using. And since there's such a direct connection between stress and addiction of all kinds. So yeah, I'm very interested in this topic. And to me, I was thinking about the phrase self-regulation. And I was asking myself, what do I mean by that? Or what does that mean to me? And what first came up was the idea of having some choice about how I'm experiencing the ups and downs of moods, of stress, that things that are happening outside of my control, how they impact me, how I respond to those things, and how I can make choices to be more balanced and make choices that are happier choices, basically healthier choices. And I'm not even sure that I actually like the word regulation, like self-regulation, but that's a very common way to think of it. But sometimes I have to kind of investigate those definitions for myself to really connect with what does that mean to me. And so for me, it comes back to being aware of what it is that's going on in my body and in my mind when I'm feeling extra stressed, and also what's going on in my environment. So whether it's things that other people are doing or situations that are happening that are increasing or intensifying the stress in my body and in my emotions and how I react to people. So for me, the first thing is just coming to know the signals, the signs that are going on. And you use the term the red alert brain. And I like that phrase, that term. And it's very descriptive. When do we feel alert, like something is not going well, or we feel afraid or threatened, or we feel irritable. So I like to bring it to real life experience that we each have that beyond the terms like regulation
Yeah.
or fight flight is sometimes helpful when we think when we're feeling like we're in a fighting kind of energy, or we're wanting to flee and get away from the situation. Or also if we're in a sort of a shutdown, like we're overwhelmed and we can't think clearly, we're feeling unclear about, we're not really feeling very much, so we don't have a clarity about what we want, so we have difficulty communicating with other people. So these to me are all kind of how I experience, and those are just little examples of how I might experience being dysregulated or out of balance or stuck in a stress mode. And so before going further, I would just like to know if you could give any examples yourself that how you experience being dysregulated or overstressed or stuck in stress.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate your introduction. I really resonate with it, Angela. First of all, I just want you to know I'm in sync with the idea of these terms. I think terms like stress management, certainly self-regulation, those are commonly used in psychology, which is my professional background, but they're not particularly near to our experience. I actually have come to enjoy or prefer the term. I might have invented it for myself, at least. I don't remember reading anywhere. I like the term self-calming. Calming. Calm evokes a certain kind of felt sense for me, just the word. The idea of calming suggests it's something I can do. Self-calming, what can I do to help myself calm down? So just that word has a different quality, a different felt sense to it than does self-regulation. A thought about this, I'll mention it right now because I'm likely to forget it as we dive in, is that tomorrow we're doing, there's a workshop. I'll be leading a workshop here. I put it in here earlier, and I'm going to just send it into chat, and it actually capitalizes on this language. The title of the workshop, it'll be here at Vitality Project. I put a link there. If you're not already signed up for it, anybody can go to this link. And the title of the workshop is Calm Your Body, Strengthen Your Recovery. And I picked calm on purpose because that's really the goal is, are there ways that I can calm my body and my brain? I see my body and brain as coextensive, but I sometimes separate those out. And tomorrow's workshop will be looking at skills that you've already touched on, Angela, and I really appreciate it. One of the exercises we'll be doing tomorrow, it will be helping ourselves to identify what's going on inside for us. And you model this well just right now, and I know you do generally, to notice what I feel like in my body. What am I feeling in my body, and kind of doing a scan in more of a mindful kind of presence, as well as what's the quality of my thinking right now? Is it racing? Is it calm? What are the thoughts? What's the content of my thoughts? As well as what kinds of emotions are arising? And then finally, as part of that exercise is, how does this lead me to want to behave? What kinds of actions follow? And the goal is to develop a more fine-tuned awareness. I think we can all continue to improve this. I certainly know that across my life, I've worked on becoming a bit more attuned to what's going on inside, because you can't intervene. I'm going to pick that word for right now. If you don't recognize that there's a problem, if there's an issue, and the only way for us to be able to tell how we're doing is to have some way of monitoring, some way of being with. And so I really love the way that you've kind of kicked off this conversation. To answer your question, and then I want to toss the ball back to you.
Okay.
As around the holidays, I was thinking about it earlier today, knowing this would be our topic tonight. I can think of however many times across my life, including into adulthood, where the holidays were some mix on the one hand of joy, because I had a very positive association in many ways with major holidays, particularly towards the end of the year, and even the idea that they symbolize the kind of the closing of a chapter, the end of this year. But they were oftentimes associated for me also with stressors Sometimes they were relational stressors in the context of a family or, a partner. There was also for me the association with kind of being thrown out of a routine, because there was a lot of sometimes travel involved and those kinds of things. And then add to that that there was oftentimes associated with holidays, depending on where I was in my life, association with inebriation, association with, getting intoxicated, getting loaded, getting high, and so on. And I through a good chunk of my midlife participated fully in all of that. And so you have even the pairing of holidays with intoxication, much less what you were talking about, which is the stress that can lead to more vulnerability of getting dysregulated or thrown out of balance or thrown out of being calm. And particularly, I think, because there's family. I remember the spiritual teacher Ram Dass saying, if you feel like you're so enlightened, just go home and spend Thanksgiving with your family.
Yeah.
And he said it tongue in cheek, but the laughter of recognition, at least for me, was recognizing there's some truth to that. So for lots of reasons, the holidays bring up the things that we're talking about. And a very good first start, it seems like to me, Angela, is self-awareness. And I think that that's the foundation that you've laid out. I'd like to see what other thoughts you have around this whole topic of how we can calm ourselves, our bodies, our minds, and so on, during a time that is associated paradoxically oftentimes with joy, but a lot of expectation and a lot of stress.
Yes. So as I said, I feel that awareness is like a first step of self-knowing what's going on in our system and our brains and our minds, and maybe being also a little bit proactive. I like to also think of, there's not a lot we can do a lot of times about outside circumstances. Things happen, people act in certain ways that might trigger us. However, I think that we can make some choices to reduce or minimize stresses from the environments that we're in, especially at the time where we're going to go into maybe a family situation where we kind of have a history. We know certain things might be happening that can trigger us. And so this may not be like a quick fix sort of thing. It might just be something to maybe move in a direction of. For myself, what I have done is notice, in family situations, I find it stressful to just sit around with people talking. I find it more helpful if I can invite people to focus on something together, like a game, playing a game. And so that way, for me, it just feels like then my energy is moving a little bit and there's an interaction with a group focus. So that's just me personally. But again, that's self-awareness. That for me, stress goes up when I'm just sitting there. People are talking about politics or something, and I'm not engaging with it in a positive way. And so the idea that sometimes we can make choices about the group situations that we go into, maybe even on the other end of the spectrum, especially with the pandemic, where maybe we don't have the option to be with people that we're used to being with. And so I know for me, another kind of trigger for stress is feeling isolated and alone. And so again, I can look ahead a little bit and think, well, what can I do to make, set up some phone dates or set up a Zoom connection with my dear friends, picking people that I feel comfortable with and safe with. These are all things that are ways that I can help reduce the stress in my body and stay more in the calm mode. Now, it may not be perfect. I mean, I almost expect that I'm going to be stressed. Life has stresses, but for me, it's a matter of looking at the landscape and doing practices that help me be more resilient. So when something does stress me out, I know some things that I can do to help myself come back into a calm. And so that I would like to talk a little bit about whether you call it self-regulating techniques or calming tools or, you know, anything like that. One of the things we know about the nervous system is that if we give our nervous system, our bodies, our nervous system, an experience of safety, then our nervous system will calm. So I don't know if you've ever been really stressed out and somebody just says, just relax. And how sometimes you can't, you know, and that could actually makes me more stressed because I feel like, well, I would relax if I knew how.
Yeah.
You know, like through my intellect, sometimes that isn't the direct route for helping me to calm. And sometimes you can use your mind to help calm, but sometimes to just tell yourself to do it doesn't necessarily work. So some of the ways that we can work with calming ourselves is through long, slow exhalations of the breath. So breathing techniques. That's one that I love because you can do it almost anywhere. And even in a setting where you're with people, you can bring part of your attention to your breath. Take a big breath in, and then just let the breath go slowly out. You can even do that when you're eating. You can take a mouthful of food, chew it, swallow it, set your fork down, and then just take a breath. And I don't know about you, but I think for a lot of people, and for me included, sometimes when I'm with people and I'm eating, I'll just be going like this, you know, just I'm not even aware of how much I'm eating and I don't set the fork down, or I'm trying to talk while I'm eating. And stress can happen for a lot of people around the holidays around food. And so if we can find ways to literally slow down and put pauses in between, change our routines. These sound very simple, but if you try to just put them into practice, even for a few moments or a few minutes, take a 2-minute break and go walk around the house, come back in. You know, there's many different things that you can do that can give your body an experience of sighing is one. These are actually have been shown by studies that sighing is a way that signals to our nervous system that it's safe and you can relax. Playing games, focusing on, you know, connecting with people that you already feel pretty comfortable with and safe with. So having that interactive way of calming the body and the brain. And I have some other ideas, but I want to pause and just see if you can, you know, throw out any that work for you. What kinds of ways do you calm yourself?
I like so much what you've talked about. You were talking earlier, and I wrote in the chat box, I wrote the term from psychology, stress inoculation, that there are ways that we can kind of inoculate ourselves metaphorically against stress ahead of time. And you provided some thoughts about that, like how to set up social interactions, for example, that increase the probability of it being a pleasant interaction as opposed to a stress-filled interaction. And so I really support that. Is if we can just know going in and do some preemptive work, isn't that wisdom? So I really want to underscore that and support that, Angela. And then I've been listening and really appreciating what you're sharing in terms of once in the moment, what can I do to kind of maintain equilibrium? I was thinking as you were sharing about breathing, it's one that I highly value for sure, and you know that I do. I did a brief exercise on Tuesday in a group that I lead. It's an online group at a local treatment center, and I was honestly, Angela, I was surprised by the power of the response. Is that, and we'll do an exercise that's parallel to in tomorrow's workshop. We'll be doing an exercise that's a companion piece to what I did on Tuesday. But the idea was to have people locate a stressful situation in their lives, and I was just going to punctuate it with just 2 minutes of breathing. What you just shared with us, and I really and it was the first time I'd done this kind of exercise with this group. So literally, if it was 2 minutes, it wasn't any more than 2 minutes. And there was about a half a dozen people online. And after we did the exercise, I said, well, how'd that go? And everyone spoke at once. So I had to say, okay, let's take turns. And so we went, and what was really striking to me, what we did is we had people rate their stress on a scale of 1 to 10. We'll do this tomorrow too. Rate their their stress on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being completely chill, 10 being stressed out completely. And there were several people that said that they had started at 7 or 8 or 9. One individual struggles with chronic pain and was really in a fair bit of discomfort. We did this literally 2-minute exercise, and what was amazing, there wasn't one person, let me state it in the positive, every single person experienced a dramatic shift in their stress level, taking 2 minutes to breathe. I didn't anticipate it, to be quite honest with you. I thought there might be 1 or 2 individuals that experienced value, but to have the entire group do that, and including, I mentioned the individual with chronic pain, a radical shift just by breathing. And it shifted his relationship to how his body was dealing with this pain. The pain was there, but he had a different kind of position with it. One woman went from I think she said a 7 or 8 down to a 2, which is almost completely relaxed, literally just punctuating our conversation, our being together with 2 minutes of breathing. So I really want to underscore how simple and how accessible and how incredibly effective some of these exercises are. And this is just one of them. So big on breathing. You take it with you everywhere you go.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that's amazing to me about these the simplicity of the breathing, for just 2 minutes, it can be easy to think that that's not going to do it, especially when you're extremely stressed or if there's a complex situation that you're dealing with. And it isn't necessarily the case that just breathing for 2 minutes, it's not necessarily going to solve everything for you, but it can make a shift. The thing gives you a different perspective. And again, coming back to the neurobiology of how the nervous system works, that when we are extremely stressed or we're in that shutdown mode, we actually we're cut off from our executive thinking, our executive function. We don't think as clearly. And so if we can even take a couple minutes to do something, whether it's movement or breathing or gazing, at a beautiful flower or something like that, getting a hug from somebody for a minute that you feel comfortable with. And then, kind of having the attitude of, I like the attitude of experimentation, being creative with it. This isn't a cure-all in one situation for me. This is like maybe almost like a lifestyle shift to just start incorporating these kinds of ideas into our day-to-day life. Over time, then I find that my options expand, my reactiveness is less. It's not gone, but it's less. I come back to center more quickly or more easily. And I enjoy life more. My relationships are more pleasant or interesting. So I like the word calm. I like the word centered and grounded. Just feeling like I'm okay right now. I'm present. I'm okay, and I want to be here. So those are other words that I use. They're just my own signals to myself. If I notice, I'm not feeling okay, I'm not feeling grounded. Okay, so what are my tools? What could I do for a few minutes that might help me return?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. We're scratching the surface of it today. We have the shop planned tomorrow. You and I'll be back next week, and I think the following week before the holidays. And I want to, in fact, let me put this here in the chat too. We have a workshop tentatively planned for late January, Angela, with you coming and providing intensive, much more immersive experience, being able to practice these skills, going more in depth with the neuropsychology of them as a background, looking at the research, but also practicing it. And so I just want to put up a notice here that we'll be looking at well-being through nervous system regulation. That's not the official title. I'm going to leave
Yeah.
that to you. But we're
Okay.
looking at looking at self-calming. We're looking at centering. We're looking at grounding. And so anybody that found this useful tonight, or that views this in the next days, we'll be back next Friday. And why don't you and I commit, Angela, these next days to provide to provide ongoing tools preparatory to the holidays. We'll be following on that in the new year. It becomes the basis for some really, I know people have mixed relationship to the idea of New Year's resolutions, but if we can think of like New Year's kindnesses to ourselves, this one might be at the top of the list for me. I can't speak for others. And so we'll be following up on this even into January with you. It'll be a real pleasure having you guide us through exercises based on your expertise. So there's a lot here at your Vitality Project that we were looking at. Invite anybody that watched tonight that hasn't signed up through vitalityproject.life. There's a link there, and the workshop will be tomorrow. You can access the workshop. Once you go through it tomorrow, you can access it forever as a member of Vitality Project. You'll also be in line for notifications of Angela's workshop in January and be able to attend that and participate in that. So so there's a lot here. I think we've done a good job of introducing it tonight, and let's just follow up, if you're agreeable, Angela, over the next several weeks. Let's follow up on this and bringing these skills to people that this is a great time to practice them. That's for sure. So,
that's right.
Yeah. I want to thank you for being a guest and such a warm and skillful presence always. It's really wonderful to have you.
Wonderful to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Spencer has written something in the notice here, a hashtag Angela Vitality Tips. And I'm not sure what you're referring to, Spencer, but if that doesn't exist, it needs to exist, because Angela has tons and tons of tips for the sake of vitality. Thank you, Spencer, for your presence tonight. Angela, thank you for yours. I wish you a good evening, and I'll see you next Friday here, okay?
Great.
Good night
wonderful
to everybody. Wish everybody a calm weekend, and moving into the holidays, we're hoping for groundedness and centeredness, right?
Okay. For sure.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks again, Angela. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.